What's up, guys? Tukey here, back again live on Twitch. For those of you hanging around tonight, it is late, but you're here with me, and that's what's important. This is the Manhattan Project, although for those on YouTube, don't think I forgot about you. I still love you. We just broke 5,000 subscribers, the 2-year goal. We hit that mark with plenty of time to spare. Things are looking good, except in Manhattan, where we have been abysmal. Last episode was a disaster. That is the only way to put it. Where we were in a very good spot until just before the All-Star break. And then it came crashing down and it hurt inside. Real American Hulk Hogan. As you can see, the month of February was one of the worst, just overall months in the history of any of my series. I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. And now we're here on trade deadline day with, I believe, 19 games to go in the season, and we ended the last episode with the dilemma of what do we do with this team. Now, Chris Kreider looks to be the odd man out. We've played him on the first line, I think. No, we've only played him on the second or third line. I think we just recently kind of jokingly dropped him to the fourth. So, he's had a somewhat rough year. 32 points isn't awful, but it's not really what we want out of him. I mean, he's shooting 9.7%. It could be going a lot better, is what I'm saying. The situation, though, comes on defense. After the Mark Stahl trade, we have an opening. And the question was whether or not to just sign someone like John Michael Lyles or Fedor Tutin from free agency, or keep Chris Kreider, or trade Chris Kreider, I should say, and go after somebody the likes of Matt Dumba or Trouba. And off-screen, although live on Twitch, I was just taking a look at some of the players, and I am going to say, I'm going to give it one last shot, but the asking price for one of those players might just be more than what I'm willing to pay. It's a lot. The fact is, we're going to have to give up Kreider, a decent prospect, maybe even a pick on top of that, to make a trade work. So it's at the point where it might just be worth waiting for Alexei Beregalazov or Anthony DeAngelo to improve. And if they improve, which DeAngelo, by the way, I think just turned into a medium top four. I think I set him to a low top four. So it might just be worth waiting for one of those two to improve. Eventually, the third pairing is Holden and Smith, Shea with whoever on that second pairing. Or do we go out and make that change now and bring in that player, which would be Matt Dumba as the top priority. Trouba would be the second option. Dumba won the poll in the last episode. So, I have to say, I'm cautious. I'm a bit scared. Because you guys know, if you've watched my series, I don't like to make a trade where I know that I didn't get the better end of the deal. And there is a chance in trading Kreider for Matt Dumba and whatever else is involved that I could be on the losing end of this deal. The problem with Dumba is that his salary cap, or his cap hit, isn't that great. So to make this work, we'd have to take back another contract, and it would have to be Kyle Quincy or Chris Stewart, for that matter, which, to be honest, the thing about Chris Stewart is he still has an extra year on his deal, unlike Quincy. We could go for Marcus Foligno, but we already have people who kind of fit that third-line role. So we'd kind of want to throw away fourth liner, and Chris Stewart, as it is listed as a third-line guy. So the thought is to just bring in Kyle Quincy and let go of him at the end of the season. So that alone, and just offering up Chris Kreider, isn't enough to have this deal go through, unfortunately. And as it is, it's still really close cap-wise. It really is. Now that I notice that, not by much, but enough that it could cause problems. So, oh boy, that's the thing. Like, I was looking at players of the Zaborovsky. We're going with that. I was looking at players of that caliber. We could go with D'Angelo or Baragalazov themselves. I'd probably go with Baragalazov, maybe. Tough to say. He's a year older, still the same overall. So, I mean, we could just tack D'Angelo onto this deal, right? And that might go through. But the fact that we'd have to give up that much, and that D'Angelo is probably going to be second pairing caliber not too long from now, it's a risky trade. It is a very risky trade, and the cap space for the Wild really screws us over. Like, really screws us over. And I'm not all that happy about it. But I still don't know if trading Kreider's the right move. But you guys seem to think that it was. And I'm willing to trust your judgment. You could have easily said, no, you're not allowed to trade Kreider. That was an option on the poll. You guys said go for it. So we will. And we'll see. And you know what? I'm going to be a little bit cheap. I'm going to safety net this just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. This won't go through, but it's worth a shot to check. Kreider and Anthony D'Angelo for Matt Dumba, Kyle Quincy, and draft picks. And it did not go through. Again, not all that surprised. It just, God, it doesn't seem like the right thing to do, having to give up this much. So you know what? It can't just be Kreider for Dumba. It can't. There has to be something else involved here. And unfortunately for us, they already gave away their first pick. They already gave away their first pick to acquire Henrik Zetterberg. So I'm not sure. I could bring Eric Stahl back to Manhattan. I'm not sure what I want to do. And who do I even want to give up? That's the problem, man. It just doesn't seem like this is the right time to make this trade. Just because of what we're going to have to give up to get somebody decent back in return. So as far as who I could pick up from them, I wouldn't even want to trade for Kirill Kaprizov because he's going to end up on the free agent list anyway, more than likely. You have someone like Luke Kunin. We could go for Jonas Brodin, but again, Dumba was the guy that won. I could easily go for Brodin, maybe even Luke Kunin, and get different options that way. Because Trouba costs even more, or has even more trade value than Matt Dumba. It's such a tough decision for what to do with this team. And I'm certainly leaning towards just saying, screw it, let's keep the team the way it is, and move forward with the season and see if we can recover. I'm certainly leaning towards that. My God. Again, people wanted Dumba. People wanted Dumba. Jonas Brodin wouldn't be a terrible option. He really wouldn't be. It's on a hell of a contract, though. I don't think he's going to get much better than that. But the cost for a decent defenseman is unreal. Again, the alternative is to keep Kreider and sign someone like John Michael Lyles. It's such a tough decision early on. Oh my God. It really is. Guys, I got to go with my gut. I have to go with my gut instinct here. And I feel bad because I had a poll in the last episode saying, hey, what should we do? And to be honest, that poll, I think, is going to be irrelevant. I don't think it's worth trading Kreider right now because we're not going to get fair value. And I don't feel confident in this decision. But I also don't want to give up a ton of assets early on. Especially in this first draft or two. So we're going to go with John Michael Lyles most likely. Teuton's a bit more of a physical player. Lyles is better offensively. The fact that Fedor Teuton's only 33 years old, probably 34 now in real life, but what the hell? That's absurd. I could bring in Roman Polak as well, just because it would be funny. I know before at the end of the last episode too, I was looking at right-handed shots, but I'd probably just go with Lyles. He's the best option. Damn it, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Kreider. I mean, it has to be for Dumba or Trouba, and it would have to be a blockbuster involving more than just Kreider. I promise at some point we will get to simming the rest of the season. We'll find out if we're even going to make the playoffs. This could all be for naught. That's what I'm scared of. That's what I'm afraid of. Is making this deal and then still struggling for the rest of the year and missing out on the playoffs anyway. It could happen. It really could. As you see Trouba's value, again, he finished second in the voting. And, I mean, his value is more akin to a JT Miller, who we're not getting rid of. So for Kreider, what would we have to do to make this work? Say I give up Kreider and DeAngelo, right? Who could I get back from Winnipeg to make this work? Now, Winnipeg, they do give us a bit more of maneuverability here and a few more options with this trade because the cap space isn't an issue. So we could easily, I mean, we might be able to get a Jack Roslovic out of this, a Nicholas Patan. And then you have some other, you know, not as good prospects, to be nice. To be a bit blunt about it, but to be nice. They don't have that great of options. They don't have that great of options. And again, we tried like hell to find a backup goalie, and we still have to stick with Andre Pavlik. I do believe. Actually, didn't we trade Pavlik? I don't remember. We were going to trade Pavlik, or we just decided that there was nobody really better to go out and get. Yeah, Pavlik's still here. At least for the rest of the year. So again, Kreider and DeAngelo for who? Like, who would it be? So we'd get the good defensive prospect, but we'd have to give up, you know, DeAngelo and get a slightly weaker offensive counterpart. Chase DeLeo might not be the worst option. I know Jimmy Lodge's name is in red, but DeLeo is at least the same age and 6 overall points better. So Chase DeLeo might not be bad. Could go with Michael Spacek as well. Damn. Damn. I don't even know if that would go through. I doubt it, and if it does, you know, we got a safety net just in case. We got a safety net just in case. So there we go. We'll tack on a couple of picks. What do they say to that? Still no. Guys, I don't think Kreider's going anywhere. I don't think Kreider is going anywhere. Unfortunately. As shitty as that is to say, I think we are stuck with who we have. You know, without taking advantage of the game. Remember, I could get deals done. This isn't about, you know, oh, can I turn this team into a winner? I'd like to think most people know that I can. You know, that I can, that I could. But we're trying to approach this series in a slightly different way, if you get what I mean. We're trying to approach it in a slightly different way. So, the game plan here will be to go and offer John Michael Lyles a contract. I may even offer Mark Dukanich a contract. Although I think we're just going to stick with Pavlik, although that's been a disaster so far this year. You know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. The trades just don't feel right. John Michael Lyles should accept, and we just have to hope that we can turn this season around and make the playoffs, man. The decision's been made. We are moving forward with Chris Kreider. It just doesn't make sense to have to give up that much to get what we need. It's just not the right time. So, unfortunately for us, we now have to figure out how to progress. And whether or not breaking up that top line, whether or not that's the best way to go, which it really isn't. Again, we have no choice but to play JT Miller at the third line center spot. We are pretty weak as far as center depth goes. And then Zuccarello and Jágr have both been... I mean, that top line's been great. It really has been. But you know what? Here, we're gonna take the risk. Let's play Kreider on the top line with Zibanejad and Zuccarello. Jágr will be with Hayes and Nash. On defense, Baragalazov stays for the moment. And then he'll be sent back down to Hartford to make way for John Michael Lyles. My God. Can we beat the Boston Bruins? We're on 72 points. Lyles has accepted. And we lost in overtime to the Bruins. The losing continues. The losing continues. Henrik Lundqvist. You are 35 years old. You are at risk of retiring at any moment, really. God, man. The pressure's on. The pressure's on. Let's call up Lyles. Let's call up Lyles. Let's go best lines. Again, let's swap a few players around. So Jesper Fast wasn't happy on the third line. Unfortunately for him and VZ, I mean, they're gonna have to complain. Deal with it. Deal with it. I'll get rid of both of you at a later time. We'll get rid of both of you at a later time. So we still have Shane Smith. Lyles is with Nick Holden. Then down in the AHL, we'll just go best lines. That has Camphor. D'Angelo's there. Baragalazov dropped an overall point. But that shouldn't be too big of a concern. Can we find a way to start winning games? We led the division for a decent part of the season, and that fell apart rather quickly. We will sim to the 15th, and we will hope for the best. Can we turn this season around? We are still very much at risk of missing the postseason. There's still a possibility of that. What the hell did I do scouting-wise? Oh, okay, I was in the OHL. Let's go forward for 3 weeks then in the queue. We lost to Tampa. We lost to Florida. Carolina, can we get the win? It's just not meant to be this season, guys. It's just not meant to be this season. Hank goes down for 2 weeks or so with a swollen knee. And this season, it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, who's to say if the injury would have happened if we made a trade, but luck-wise, it just hasn't been our year. And now we're going to have to rely on Ondrej Pavelec to lead this team to the postseason. So what I'm saying is, we're actually going to miss the playoffs, but maybe we can be Philly-esque or New Jersey-esque and end up with a really high draft pick. Maybe that can still happen. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Wow. Okay. And we lost that game against Carolina. That's now 3 straight losses. No matter what we do with this team, as Jesper Fast goes down with an injured wrist, he's out for like a week, but still, oh my God, we cannot catch a break. Matt Plumple, I'd love to call you up, but I don't want to lose you on waivers, so Nieves gets the call up. Damn it. It just wasn't meant to be. Alright, so Nieves will be on the 4th line. Yeah, with them, we'll have VZ there who's complaining about ice time, but I don't care. Piss off, Jimmy VZ. Nobody cares. Actually, here, you know what? I'll cut you some freaking slack. There you go. You'll play there. We'll have JT Miller. And we'll roll like that. Good. And then best lines down in Hartford. Did we at least beat Detroit? We did, 3-2. We play Tampa again a week after losing, and we lose again. We'll have players coming back from injury. We'll take a look at the lineup at that point. Jesper Fost will be back soon. I think it was the 19th that he was supposed to be fully healthy. We'll double check. And you know what? I don't even care. Against Minnesota, the Hartford Wolfpack at least qualified for the playoffs. We do get 3 points in our last 2 games, so that's not bad. If we make the playoffs, it's going to be, it's going to be barely squeaking in. Right now we have a 5-point buffer on the Columbus Blue Jackets, although we don't know the situation in the Atlantic Division. What a disaster this season's been. So Fost is still not healthy, but we will sim to our next game, or were we already there? I don't even, yeah, we'll sim to the next game at least. He should be 100%. We'll send Cristobal Nieves back down. I think it's Nieves. I've heard some people say Nieves, but I think it's Nieves. I don't care. Pronunciation. Proper pronunciation is for squares. Yeah, no, we are not sending down Ryan McDonough. Thank you. We will send down Cristobal Nieves, though. Again, we will go best lines. Go best lines down in the AHL. On defense, I mean, McDonough and Shattenkirk is still the pairing. Absolutely. Second line, Shea and Smith are starting to fall apart. So let's go with Nick Holden. And we'll go Lyles and Smith. Maybe? At this point, we're just grasping for straws and trying to do anything that we can to keep this season alive. That's all it is. Can we get to the postseason? That is the question. You know what? Here, we're going to swap Nash and Kreider. Just to see if that does anything. Just to double check. 10 games to go. We kept Chris Kreider. We avoided some of the other bigger moves that I certainly could have made. We lost, but at least we got the pity point against the Devils. I mean, we could have made some incredible moves, right? No doubt about it. People have seen, as we get a nice 6-0 win over the Islanders, people have seen through rebuilding Hockeytown, you know, what I can do when there's no handcuffs on. The handcuffs are on a little bit. And right now we are struggling. Can we beat the LA Kings on the road? A Western road trip towards the end of the season. We beat the Kings in the shootout. Was Lundqvist fully healthy? We have to double check. We have to double check, and we're back into the top wildcard spot at the very least, which is a pretty damn good sign. Was he fully healthy? He is not. And again, we can't put him as a backup because even when he's on the bench, he can still end up getting hurt again. So we'll sim this game against the Ducks. We are currently on 85 points. I thought that was going to be another injury. I wouldn't have been surprised given our luck. And we pick up a win there. That's a gigantic win for us. Hank will be back for this game against the San Jose Sharks. Right, so Andre was abysmal heading into this episode. He's improved. That's right, that number was worse. He's improved. Alexander Georgiev. Holy shit. 4 games, a .942 save percentage. We may just have a future goaltender on our hands, or at the very least, a future backup. But for the moment, I really should just send Pavlik down and get it over with. But we are stuck with him for 1 more year. I will try to trade him in the offseason. So let's go best lines. 1 more time. And see what we can do. Again, we will actually... well, let's actually change it up a little bit. Let's do it that way. Of Holden with Shea. We'll go best lines down in Hartford. And we'll move forward. We will move forward. 6 games to go. Can we make the playoffs? We just got to get there. against the San Jose Sharks on this Western road trip. It's a 6-4 win, 3-0 on our California road trip. 4 consecutive wins. And we have a nice little point streak going on over the last 7 games. We play the Penguins in the last game of the month, in what might as well be a must-win. We have 5 games left. Every game's a playoff game at this point. Against Pittsburgh, it's a 5-3 loss. It's a 5-3 loss. Right. 4 games to go. We have to play the Penguins on the last game of the season. And we are currently tied in points. The funny thing is, we are only 4 points out of a playoff spot. Or out of the top spot in the division. We are currently in a playoff spot. If we beat the Flyers here, we're 2 points back. That's how close we are. We're still there. This division is ridiculously close with 4 games to go. Just, God, man. Please beat the Flyers. Please. Could you imagine if we win the Div title after all this? And it might happen. Oh my God, 6-2 win over Philly in what's been the biggest game of the year so far. Washington, Ottawa, and Pittsburgh. Washington and Pittsburgh are must-wins. Ottawa, if we lose in overtime, so be it. The Hartford Wolfpack have 49 wins, by the way. Oh my God. Let's see. Let's see. So the Flyers are 4 points clear of us. We have 3 games to go. So the Div title's out of reach. But we could easily finish second in the division. There's no doubt. Let's take a look at the playoffs, or, you know, the current standings, and we'll see what's going on in the Atlantic. So everybody's on 79 points, aside from the Flyers. Of course, we can finish with a maximum of 97 points. So the dream, in a way, is still alive. Carolina's out of it, and then as far as who's close to catching us, Boston's 4 points back with 2 games to go. We should be fine. We should be in the playoffs. I don't think it was official yet. It's not official yet. Basically, the only way we miss is if we just drop the ball in an unreal, historic manner. That's not exactly the right word you want to say. But it would certainly be historic if we were to miss the postseason at this point. We play the Capitals. If we win, we jump them. We jump them? Yeah, we jump them in an alley and beat the shit out of them to make sure that we can win. If we beat them, we leapfrog them in the standings, unless, of course, they lose in overtime. We'd be tied on 93 points. Let's go. Against the Caps, we need a win, and we lost 4-3. God. Oh, come on. Matt Plumple injures his shoulder just before the postseason begins. Wow. We're now 2 points back of Pittsburgh. If we lose here, we are pretty much guaranteed that second wildcard spot and a very, very rough road ahead of us. We will sim against the Sens. Can we get the win? Please. We get shut out 1-0. We have officially qualified for the playoffs, which is nice because for a moment it was certainly looking like we weren't going to make it. We have, but the odds are we will be playing Toronto in the first round. They won the Eastern Conference. They are just out of the race for the President's Trophy, but by far the best team in the East. So if we win, if we can beat Pittsburgh, I don't even think we would have them on the tiebreaker, I believe, the one extra win. We'd have the one extra win, I do believe. I think that's factored above losses and regulation plus overtime wins. If we win, we play Philly. If we lose, we play Toronto. But regardless, we've made it. We are in the postseason. This might as well be a playoff game, so let's see what happens, and maybe we can find a little bit of different luck simming the game this way, as we, of course, will be doing in the postseason. We're not going to be overly dramatic about it, though. First period, Malkin and Gensel. Second period, Jesper Foss made it 2-1. Carter Rowney, of all people, makes it 3-1. Toronto, here we come. Carl Hagelin, the empty netter. And we are officially the 8th seed. After leading the division for the early part of the season, we are officially the 8th seed. And will be in the Atlantic bracket, taking on Toronto in the first round of the postseason. We finished 41-32-9. We'll take a look, of course, around the league at the stats before we wrap this episode up, and of course we'll get ready for the postseason. In the next episode, the Minnesota Wild ended up winning the damn President's Trophy. But let's find out here. For point percentage, 55.5%. That is abysmal. Goals for per game, you know, mid-table, top half though, so not awful. Goals against per game, somehow we were, you know, good as far as goals against per game goes, which just doesn't make sense. Our power play was at 18%, which looks to be about mid-table. You can see us, we are the last name there. So the power play wasn't awful. The PK was decent. Again, closing in on top 10, if not top 10 directly. Good home record for the most part. Struggled on the road. We go into the playoffs with a 5-4-1 record. And just by the way, to make myself feel a little bit better, the Hartford Wolfpack won their division by a lot. So at the very least, we'll be able to keep an eye on them. We will take a look at the team stats, though. Matt Zuccarello leads the team in points with 69. Nice. Jaromir Jagr with 57 points. Zibanejad with 55. They made up the top line for the majority of the season. Kevin Hayes also broke the 50-point mark with 51. Nash was just short with 49 points. 25 goals, not too shabby for him. Chris Kreider finished with 43 points. JT Miller with 40. Pavel Buchnevich with 36. 32 for Grabner. 31 for McDonough. David Desharnais was garbage, to the surprise of nobody. Kevin Shattenkirk with 29 points. Vesey with 26. Fost with 23. Brady Shea with 17. And that about does it. Lyles had 1 point in 18 games, but he was a plus player. So there's that. The goaltending. 63 games, or at least 63 appearances for Hank, which isn't too bad. 31, 22, and 4 with a .933 save percentage. There's no doubt that if our team can just get their shit together, Hank has done well enough this season. Andre Pavlik, 23 appearances, 8, 9, and 2 with a .901 save percentage. He has 1 year left on his contract after this. Needless to say, we'll trade him at the draft for a 7th round pick if we have to. The hope is that Georgiev, which I'm probably butchering that, but Shestyorkin is close. We'll be able to sign him in the upcoming offseason. And then perhaps Chris Nell could be the backup next year. I'm not sure what the goaltending situation is going to look like on the free agent market. But as was pointed out in the Twitch chat there, the fact that we had that many players in double digits for goal scoring is crazy. Like, it makes you wonder how we struggled. It really does. I mean, we only had one full-time forward not make it, and then the rest were defensemen who didn't. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Let's take a look league-wide at the scoring, and you want to talk crazy and goal scoring, there you go. Alex Ovechkin with 56 goals. Second highest was Patrick Kane with 46. And then Jamie Benn was the only other player to break 40, which is mind-boggling. Jeff Skinner had a great season, 36 goals, 32 for Dadonov in his return season, 32 and 32 for him, 31 for Atkinson. Nazem Kadri with a 63-point season. The assist leader was Nicholas Backstrom. No surprise, TJ Oshie up there as well. Again, I'm not all that surprised. Mike Camilleri with 50 assists though and 70 points is somewhat surprising. Ovi led the league in points. Ben was second, Kessel third. So, an interesting season for sure. I do wonder, who was the best plus-minus? It was John Klingberg on Dallas. Trouba was second. He and Bufflin were a hell of a pairing. The worst in the league was Derek Dorsett. Derek Dorsett. There were a couple of Canucks down there for plus-minus. Maybe not a good sign for them. Not at all. Hello, Moth. How are you? I'm going to have to punch you out of this room. Goaltending-wise, we'll at least take a look at the... How about the wins leader, shall we? Who was Ben Bishop in Dallas. A bit surprising that it wasn't Devin Dubnyk. The rookie race. The rookie race. Mitch Marner may have sealed the Calder. 66 points in his rookie year. 62 for Laine, 54 for Mantha, and 50 for Matthews, despite making it to a 91 overall. That is pretty damn surprising. Rantanen, Aho, Dvorak, Buchnevich, not terrible seasons. Matthew Tkachuk, though, underperformed. He definitely underperformed. Now, really quickly, before we wrap this up, I do want to take a look at the bottom of the standings, and I might even take a look at the AHL scoring as well. Basically, I'm nervous to end this episode and end up having this episode be on YouTube because I don't know what the reaction is going to be to me not trading Kreider. We still could, coming up into the draft, but was that the right decision? Should I have just overpaid for a different backup goalie other than Andre Pavlik? Vancouver was dead last, by the way. St. Louis down there as well, and Detroit. You never quite know how this will sim. But down in the AHL, just because the Wolfpack did incredibly well, I want to see who we're dealing with here. And we do have Stromwall, 36 goals, 71 points, 59 for Nieves, 56 for Plumple. So not too bad. Adam Chappie with 25 goals. Not too shabby. Will Butcher, 32 points in 67 games. Not surprising, but the goaltending is what I'm really intrigued by. The goaltending is what I'm intrigued by, as Georgiev or Georgiev did really well in his stint with the main team. And he had a .921 save percentage. Chris Nell was the starter. I mean, it was a true tandem. And he had a .905 save percentage. Halverson did very well in his limited time as well. So Chris Nell, maybe somebody we could look at trading at the draft. Go with Georgiev as our backup next year, perhaps, depending on the improvement, or maybe Shesterkin. We shall see, because if we want to make sure that Halverson gets a little bit of time. But again, the goaltending situation is looking pretty damn good. Guys, I think that pretty much covers it. The only question remaining, aside from what the hell is going to happen, and let's get the confirmation that we're playing Toronto in the first round, because we know what's happening. Although, in fairness, the Islanders did just take... Wait a minute. The Islanders did take the Div title. Wow. But it's still Toronto. Here we go. Moment of truth. Matt Plumple should be healthy for Hartford. There it is. The 49-24-9 Maple Leafs await us in the first round. We will, of course, take a look at their team, but we know that they have Austin Matthews. We know the team, and Matthews had a good season. Mitch Marner might win the Calder. We know what we're up against. The question is, what do we do with this lineup? You guys can go back and see the point totals. What do we do? As far as what lines I would roll with and what players I trust the most at this point, which is a very tough question, by the way. Again, we are locked into having the 4 centers that are currently there as our centers, unless we were to send down Pavel Buchnevich and roll with Cristobal Nieves, which isn't the best idea. So, if I had to choose what to do here, and I'm telling you, I'm not really convinced, but that 4th line certainly wasn't great. But I'm not sure what more you can do with it. And the lines as they stand might be the best way to go. You could argue swapping Hayes and Miller. You could argue maybe putting Nash and Kreider down on the 3rd line. The only thing I'm certain of is that top line staying the same. The 4th line probably the same as well. And on defense, I mean, we got to roll with McDonough and Shattenkirk. The second pairing, though, Brady Shea improved, which is great news. But he and Brendan Smith didn't exactly work out all that well. So, tough to say what to do defensively. But thank God Henrik Lundqvist is still here. He had a really good season. He carried this team to the playoffs. Now the question is, can he carry this team to a cup? The journey starts in the next episode. I can't wait to hear your feedback, particularly on YouTube, of course, in real time. I've been able to see what you guys are saying live on Twitch, and I appreciate that. But I'm looking forward to seeing all the feedback, whether or not I made the right decision in holding on to Chris Kreider, whether I should have just traded Pavlik for a bag of pucks. What should we do with the lineup? Do we have a chance against Toronto? I don't know what to say at this point. So now is the best time to call it an episode. For those of you who have joined me, live on Twitch, yeah, I'm gonna leave that in. Again, I'm not a perfectionist here. I thank you very much, though. For those watching on YouTube after the fact, I thank you very much as well. Not only for supporting the videos, the fact that the views are going all right, the 5K subs, as we mentioned at the start of the video. Hopefully the Rangers can turn things around, and maybe we're in for a year 1 miracle. So again, for those on Twitch, stick around. For those on YouTube, you know what you have to do to make sure that you stay in touch with the videos, the uploads. You know what you got to do to support the video and all that fun stuff. I don't have to tell you at this point. So I'll just say thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time, where we are going to get swept by Toronto. Leafs in 3.